what do I see in the coming budget? What do I see in the future for New Brunswick and solar energy and power bills and all this stuff? This might be a long one. Grab some popcorn. So, provincially, we currently have a $3,000 grant for solar energy, which and a bunch of different retrofits. It's called the Total Home Energy Savings Program, and MB Power hosts this for the provincial government because they're a Crown corporation, and they merged the old Efficiency New Brunswick under MB Power. So even us off-gridders can gain access to those grants. According to Susan Holt's campaign commitments, they are talking and have promised to increase support for home energy retrofits, free heat pump program, and introduce a provincial program for solar retrofits. What does that mean? We don't really know. I just know that I'm pretty happy with $3,000 that is granted to us now. So if you're looking at solar, that's still available. PEI in Nova Scotia, that went away. So we still have that. We lost our interest-free loan in October. The Liberal government, who's in power right now, has promised their goal is to have a net zero grid by 2035. That's what this says. What does that mean? I know they're pushing electric cars and clean energy like wind and stuff, wind and solar. So I know there's going to be a lot of different opinions on this. I'm not going to take a side on either of this. I just live off-grid and independently, and I happen to be really good at solar and batteries and designing systems and doing what makes sense for people. I will tell you that 98% of my customers care about their pocketbook more than any green energy or saving the trees or anything. That's just facts. That's what it is. So I try to promote and live debt free. I'm not debt free, but like a very like no monthly bills. I hate subscriptions. I hate car payments. I have a mortgage still, but I don't have a power bill. I don't have an internet bill. My cell phones are covered under my business, and I just try to, a penny saved is a penny earned. So anyway, that's my stance on things. You can live a lot freer when you don't have a subscription to every music service or Netflix and all this other stuff that just constantly drains your bank account all the time. So that's kind of my lifestyle. I don't promote, that I saved a whole bunch of trees or anything like that. Excuse me, I pollute a lot. I fly an airplane around. I, drive my truck everywhere. Anyway, so that's just, I didn't want to get political, but I just want to kind of show that based on my experience, most people are interested in solar to save money. And it's that monthly bill that goes forever and ever and ever. And the sooner you can get rid of that, the freer you can be. So a wise man once told me, you don't have to make a lot of money to be rich, just don't spend a lot. So that was a little bit of a rant, but now you know. So we've been made promises. I suspect that the new budget that's going to come out is going to have a lot of incentives and maybe similar to what we had before. But I'll tell you what I'd love to see, and I think would really help people, especially in New Brunswick when we have the threat of like the grid not being able to supply power to us in a few years. Like we saw that on a headline. I posted that. It went pretty viral. I just took a picture of a Telegraph journal at the convenience store and posted it on there. Anyways, we've got big projects with MB Power. We've got Mactaquac. I saw a snippet in the summertime where our power was coming from. Most of it was coming from Beldoon, which is coal-fired. La Pro wasn't working. Mactaquac was hardly making any power. We didn't have any water. So we're promoting electric cars. Electric cars take a lot of power. A Ford F-150 Lightning, long range, 135 kilowatt hours. That's the equivalent of putting 135 houses on the grid at once if you charge that in 1 hour. I don't know if you can, but that's the math behind it. Those are the facts. So yeah, electric cars are hard on the grid. But the nice thing about them is we can schedule when to charge them and stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's called demand response, and this might be I know I haven't completely explained what a kilowatt hour is yet, and we're going to talk about demand response and the problems that we're having or going to have with our grid. So the solution that NB Power has is to build a generator essentially that is able to supply the grid when we need it instantaneous. So in my case, I'm living on a microgrid essentially, and when my lights go out, if there's no sun and I'm not hooked to the grid, but I start a generator and it works every time. It doesn't have to be sunny out. It doesn't matter the loads. I can run it all. So essentially that's what they're doing is we're short on power, and when we're short on power, we buy it from someone else. So if you open the NB Power annual report, it will tell you your exports and your imports, and you can see, but you can't see the price, but you can see how much power we've imported and exported. And in coming years, I think we're going to be importing a lot, and it's like we pay what they want for it. That's how you sell your electricity. You'll pay whatever people, if you sell anything, I'm selling a car, I want to get the most I can get out of it. So Quebec might sell us power, and this is how much it's going to cost to keep our lights on. So their solution is to build a gas plant, I believe, and that's, and a lot of people are controversial about that, but at the end of the day, they need to have demand power. We need to have power when the wind's not blowing and when the sun's not shining. So if you guys have watched some of my other videos, I talk about how I don't think that solar helps NB Power at all. It helps us if we're net metered. We can put a solar array on our home and we can run our power meter backwards. And I've installed over 2 megawatts of solar, and on a sunny day like day before yesterday, we're supplying all that power to ourselves first. We self-consume it, and then the rest of it goes out to the grid. So most of you are thinking, oh, that's great, we're helping NB Power. Well, you're only helping NB Power when it's sunny out, on the sun's time, not their time. And they need to have power when they want power when they need it, which is usually in the mornings and the evenings, or when it's really hot out or it's really cold out. And the reality is there's times where it's going to be super cold and we aren't making 2 megawatts of power to send back to the grid because there's snow on our panels. So NB Power has to supply that electricity somehow when it's not cloudy. So I've always said it'd be better if we all had batteries that the grid can pull from, that NB Power can call upon, and they do these pilot projects in Nova Scotia now where they will actually purchase power from a battery that you have in your home, because it saves them from firing up a big coal plant or buying electricity from someone else when they need it. Coulson Cove, you see that running, we're losing money. Like, that's there just to keep your lights on. They're not making electricity at 16 cents a kilowatt hour at Coulson Cove. They're making it at whatever it costs to make electricity to keep the lights on. So excuse me, solar's great, and it's great for the customers, it's great for us, especially we use it when we want. We don't have to have a battery because when the sun goes down, we get it from NB Power when it's convenient for us, and we make it when it's convenient for us. But it causes issues at the utility level. So in the future, we're going to see, we've been talking about this forever, vehicle to grid, and what that is if you have an EV and you plug it into your house and it charges, you can charge it when the power's cheap. So nighttime, it's cheap. If NB Power needs that power, or if you need the power because the power is out, you've got like the biggest battery ever, because a typical home battery is like 15 kilowatt hours, and a truck battery is 100, and you've already bought it. So it's there. So vehicle to grid will come in the future, and it'll be a two-way bi-directional. You'll be charging and you'll be discharging your vehicle based on the electricity costs that the utility is charging you. Or if you want to sell it back to the utility at a surplus, you'll be able to do that. And you'll be able to do that with a home battery as well. So we see this in other parts of the world, and it's because we're so far behind everything. We're just our not that our grid's old, but our tendencies are old. We just used to make power and everyone just chomps from it, but we're never trying to. We have the technology now that we don't need huge generators to run everything all the time, but we can, if we can do what they call demand response and smooth out the demands on the utility using batteries that the consumer purchases through EVs, and anyone who has an EV will tell you they're awesome. Anyone who hates an EV doesn't own one. I don't own one, but it's like, I know I see that a lot. You know, people crap on stuff and they don't own it. They don't live it. Like if you talk to someone who has one, it's great. So imagine having an EV that you can pull and sell the power that you stored at 3 times or 10 times or 100 times, because this happens. They sell the electricity back to the grid at 100 times more than they paid for it. And we're going to have, I think, in the next 10 years, I think the utilities are going to be incentivizing batteries that they control, if we allow them to sell power back to the grid when they need it. So imagine you have a whole subdivision and everyone has a battery with 15 kilowatt hours in it, and there's 100 homes in there. Well, now you've got 1.5 megawatt hours of power that the utility can call on, and we don't need it. We've got it stored, and you can actually get an ROI, a faster ROI on that battery purchase. I personally think we should be incentivizing storage even more than solar. So that's what the future is looking like. The Greener Homes grant used to have $1,000 section in there called for resiliency, which included batteries. So batteries were incentivized 2 years ago. I think we're going to see more of that when they come out with a budget for the net zero grid by 2035. I think it's important. There's a lot of benefits to batteries. Just a big capacitor, a big flywheel for the grid. There's incentives for the customers, because we can, you know, it's almost like a stock market. You buy it low and sell it high, and you know, and it helps us not need to build a new generator. And I know a lot of people have said, oh, that gas plant that they want to do in Tantramar, they should do batteries instead. Well, maybe they should. I don't know if anyone's looked into that. And then, of course, there's a bunch of controversy about battery chemistry and, you know, where the chemicals are coming from and all that. I just know what works. I live it. I live on a microgrid that I kind of, you know, manage my electricity based on the weather, and I try not to run a generator. My record year was 48 hours on a generator. It's because it costs a lot to run the generator. It's $1 a kilowatt hour is what it costs. So I get this perspective. I've never paid a power bill before. I don't know. So I see how it can work and how and the position the utilities are in. So what I'd love to see in the new budget is I'd love to see an interest-free loan that does not require bridge financing. Right now, the interest-free loan, it requires the customer to make the purchase of any of their upgrades, get the paid receipt. No one's going to give you a paid receipt until you pay for the product. And then when it's all done, you have an audit, and then maybe a month later, you'll get your money from the government. So the people who could really benefit from solar and energy efficient upgrades can't access that because we don't have $40,000 kicking around. So we have to bring in a private company. A lot of us use Finance It, and we do a third-party financing. We call it bridge financing. So you have to borrow money to get the borrowed money, and it's a bit of a pain in the butt. What I'd really love to see is like a 15-year interest-free loan that does not require bridge financing. I think that would be super slick, because almost all people, even on the east-west roofs of homes, would be able to generate their own electricity, and they would be able to pay on their loan, and it would be less than what their power bill would be. And then they would take the savings from the solar and put it on their loan, and they'd only pay for the 15 years, which just locks in their rate essentially for 15 years. Then when it's paid for, it's gravy, and there's a 30-year warranty on panels and stuff. So now you're making your own electricity at home, and you're paying on an interest-free loan that was easier to get. Plus, if we combine that with whatever this solar retrofit is on top of our $3,000, like, it's going to be a win. I think, I mean, this is just me speculating. I don't know what the budget is. I'm not recommending people buy into solar unless they've already got the interest-free loan, because I think something equivalent or maybe better is coming. So let's just hold off. I don't mind doing designs and stuff, because the design won't change unless, of course, we have time of use billing and stuff. Then batteries might make sense. Maybe we'll have an incentive for batteries. I hope that NB Power gets ahead of the ball a little bit and looks at battery options for customers. I know they've already looked at renting batteries to customers, but usually they're looked at renting solar, and I was kind of interviewed on that, and it just didn't make sense. They had to compete with the existing programs, and to rent solar from NB Power just didn't make any sense whatsoever. I don't know whose calculator they're using in there, but it was junk. Anyways, so excuse me, I'm hoping to see some of that stuff happen, and maybe our Susan Holt government will introduce their solar retrofit program at the same time that the federal government introduces some type of program, and maybe it'll be great. And I know there's some of you out there going, why are we subsidizing any of this? And I kind of agree with you. I kind of think that the free market should have a chance to play, and then we have to take subsidies from everything. Call me a little Elon Musk right now. But anyways, from the point of view of somebody looking into getting into solar right now, let's just wait until this budget comes out. Let's see what is offered. I think we're going to see some really cool stuff in the future. I think in the next 10 years, we're going to be doing what other countries are doing. Right now, we use the grid as a primary means of power. And in other spots, due to the price of power and the different power rates during the days and night, and the price of batteries and the technology that we have out there in vehicle to grid, it makes sense for them to produce and use their own electricity and use the grid as a backup. That just isolates you from any of these poor decisions and rate hikes and everything. If we can just use the grid, we use our own battery. You basically live like me, and when I have to start the generator, that's when I use the grid. Or maybe I use the grid when it's 2 cents a kilowatt hour at night, and I don't use it during the day because I have power. I have it stored and have it in my vehicle. And using these technologies with like vehicle to grid and forecasting and AI, I know it freaks everybody out, but these things can make decisions for us that are in our best interest. For example, the Tesla 3 battery, which includes an inverter, it has typically on the day-to-day it will draw your battery down in certain places like California. You'll charge your battery and use your battery at night, and when the battery's say at 20%, it pulls from the grid, and then the whole process restarts the next day. Usually these batteries have like 8 to 10,000 cycles before, it's years and years, like 20 to 30 years is what these batteries are supposed to last for. And what it does, it reads the weather, and if there's a weather warning coming in and it thinks that you're going to lose power, it'll make sure by itself that your battery is charged up and ready for the storm, so you can have power when your power goes out. It does that automatically. So just one little instance of like AI, making our lives a little more convenient. It just makes decisions for you. I have a similar system that I had to build 10 years ago in this place, where I have 1,000 gallons of thermal energy storage, and if I have the extra power, I charge that up, and then charge up my heat, and I take it from the sun. I'm just doing, and there's a little computer system that makes decisions on that, and it can I don't have it doing it, but it can read the weather, and it can make decisions, and it can read the outside air temperature and know that it should up my in-floor heat temperature, because it's going to be colder out and I'm going to need a little more temperature in order to get the response time to the floor. So this stuff's all coming into play, and it might be, some people might say, oh, it's just use a wood stove, but I mean, I'm geeky, and I know people want convenience, and I know the technology out there is available to make things convenient for us. And I think that we're going to see a play with the vehicle to grid. I think we're going to see batteries in everyone's home. I think the grid is going to thank us for it. And I think that people are going to be trying to isolate themselves from depending on the grid. And that's coming. So it's going to be very interesting in the next few months to see what type of programs. That budget might not even get approved. We might get thrown into an election. Who knows? Apparently, we're spending way too much money. But anyway, I'm not a politician yet. So we're just going to watch this play out. We're going to see what is coming. Susan Holt knows something. She's made some promises. She already took 10% tax off our power bills. I don't know what Carney's got up his sleeve. I know a lot of third-party auditors aren't happy with the amount of money that's about to be spent. Should we use that to make ourselves more independent in the future? I probably would. So I like being independent of the power grid and stuff like that. And I think it's cool. And I think a lot of people want to. You know, I see a lot of people call me and they say, I'm going off grid. And the reality is they probably aren't. There are some compromises to that. And it's based around space heat and water heat. And anyways, that's another movie for another day. This one's long enough. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.